Talk and Rock Radio, where friends meet at the intersection of life, inspiration, and music. Here's your host, Rick Kern.
Welcome, everyone, to Talk and Rock Radio. This is our first show for 2022, mainly because this guy ended up getting some kind of bug. No, it wasn't COVID, but it was some kind of a bug, and I sounded like Kermit the Frog, and so I didn't want to come on with my show and kick off the new year sounding like a frog. So anyway, when I think of the El Paso, Texas bands, that especially have kind of gone through the test of time, there are only a few that come to mind. One of these groups is called the Group Called El Paso, which is now called the El Paso Band. Welcome founding member Fernie Novoa and current band leader Raul Montes. Hi, guys.
Hey, how are you, Rick? Thanks for the invitation.
Doing great, man. Doing great.
For the invitation.
It's so great to have you guys with me today. I think fondly of the El Paso Band and the group called El Paso because you guys go back so far.
Yeah.
There's not too many groups, like I said, that can make that claim. Rod Crosby's one of them, Bobby Rosales, from Bobby and the Premiers, and there's maybe one or two others. But man, you guys are still doing it, still playing, and I know you're not, Fernie, but Raul is, and we're gonna be talking about that because early on, Fernie was the founding member of the group. He played trumpet, played timbales, sang, and as well, that's what Raul did. Whenever he moved into the group. And but what I'd like to do first, guys, is I'll start with you, Fernie, and let's
Sure.
Let's talk about the early years. Let's talk a little bit about how you got into music and why music was so important to you. I mean, gosh, it started at age 7, and at age 13, you were playing in the bars. Let's talk about that, man.
First of all, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm not going to act cool. The only way I can act cool is to get my sunglasses and put them on and kind of act like I'm cool. But, I appreciate the invitation. You've had some fantastic guests in your show. I was not familiar with the podcast at all. So I've been kind of inundated the last couple of days looking at some of the great history that you have in El Paso. And I want to compliment you. It's great that you're doing that.
Thank you.
I think that what I like about this podcast would be probably takes me back to my roots, my barrio, the people that I really grew up with as far as the music. And the other guy that's going to take the microphone in a little while, Raul, he's my brother. He and I. Well, let me back up a little bit. I started in the projects across the street from the Coliseum. And when we went up to where the rich people live, which is where Raul lived, on Pena Street, he and I just connected right away. And I can swear that his first instrument that he had was some drums that were cardboard boxes, basically. And Raul can attest to that. And he's my brother. And I don't know of any other musician or person that's closer to me than Raul. So I'm so happy to be sharing this with him. So to answer your question, I think the thing that I like the most about this discussion with the group called El Paso is going to be that it's not whether they were so great or they did some fantastic things. We never really recorded. It wasn't really a recording group. It was an entertainment group. But the way I got started was my dad, Juan Novoa. He had his orchestra. He started in Parral, Chihuahua, down in Mexico, and my grandpa had a store and a grocery store, and one guy came in and pawned his saxophone, and my grandpa said, "You don't have to leave the saxophone here. You can take whatever food, sign here." And long story short, my dad liked the saxophone. He ended up making a deal with that customer, and that customer would teach my dad how to play, and my dad loved it. My dad got to a point where he wanted to play music. He couldn't play music in Mexico. Parrales was at that time was kind of a ranching community, so he came to Juarez. He actually got on a bus and came to Juarez by himself and started playing music, and he loved the orchestras back then when Glenn Miller and Perez Prado and all those great band musics, orchestra, maybe 15, 20 people in the orchestra. So that's how he got started, and that's how we as a family, I have 5 brothers. One of my brothers already passed, but all of us are musicians. We played. And I still remember being there in the projects in the Diablo and going out there and working the James Brown, gigs. He would come in, and I was 12 years old or something like that, and just lived across the street, and would do anything to go in there and either clean or sell popcorn or whatever, and the vibes were there. But the nice thing about, as we move into the Group Called El Paso discussion, a lot of my story will resonate and also will be replicated by a lot of the people that we're going to be talking about, which is people that are young. They love music. My family is very uh, musical oriented. My on my mom's side, there's 18 children, and they traveled all throughout the United States, following the crops, and everybody sang. That's what they did. They sang. They were poor. They had to do something to make life easier. So that's come from a very deep. I send you some pictures of all my family members. So that's how I started. Moving forward from the barrio to going into school, where Raul and I went, Jefferson High School. We played in the orchestra and the band. It wasn't just the marching band. It was the orchestra, and Raul and I had the privilege of working for playing, learning music from 2 of the greats. The guy's called Milan Svambera. He's the orchestra director. I don't know of anybody else in El Paso history.
And Mr. Glover, right?
Well, he was Milan Svambera was the orchestra director.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Glover was the band director. So we had some pretty good roots, and we really had a lot of fun. And I never really was a very good musician. I've never been a vocals. You said vocals. I've never really been a vocal player. I've stick to the basic brass instruments. I was more like a organizer, more like a getting the group together and the finances, and stuff like that. We had a really good thing going when we first started the Group Called El Paso. So I'll stop there to see if you have any questions. But I've taken you from my childhood all the way up to high school, and that's the way I played in bars. You're right. When I was 13 years old, I started playing in the Alameda area, some bars, and then we graduated to the Body Shop there on Montana Street, to the Aztec Club down there in the valley, and one of the things I could tell you to kind of conclude my childhood musical story is that I did it not only to play, but I did it to bring bucks back to the family. We were poor. We needed money, and my dad, we just come in, and I could still remember coming back from playing the club at about 13, 14 years old. And then I brought my other brother in to play in the same group. You remember the Gene Willis band, Raul?
Yes, I was there.
So Gene Willis, we would come in, but my mom would wait for us till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And she would wait there, open the door, says, "Okay, blow on my nose. Blow on my nose. I want to know." So that would be the entry pass through the house. We had a really good foundation. And then I would just really very happily give her the, $20 or $25 or whatever whatever I earned. So that was kind of a nice thing. Fortunately for us, as we move into the discussion about the group called El Paso, we made some pretty good bucks. We made some, I know of the other groups that you've interviewed. We were 7 or 8 guys. At one time, we were a little bit more, but we were making some pretty good bucks at the time. So I love getting home and giving the bucks to my parents, the money to my parents, and that's kind of the story, really, in regards to the way I got into music.
That's a testament, Fernie, that you to be making good bucks, especially with 8 or so guys in the club. In the group, you had to be awfully good to be paid big bucks back in those days. So I commend you. I mean, this is so intriguing to me to hear what you're saying about the family unit and how you were doing that, not just to satisfy your passion for playing music, but because you were helping the family out. And, that is so incredible. I mean, that really tugs at my heartstrings when I hear stories like that. It's tremendous. And, I love that.
As I was hearing your podcast, and I hear all those great people that you've interviewed, a lot of people copyright, write songs. I've had a lot of success. I think the Group Called El Paso is a group that their biggest success was finding the talent, the group that could really kind of work together, because we were all have different personalities, and we had some pretty good players. From a trumpet standpoint, you'll see Raul, the other guy that is not only a great trumpet player, but the drum, the timbales, the rhythm, the great musical beat that this guy has in his heart is just really was the foundation of the group. So playing the challenge was getting the group together and not to let the ego get involved in that. We never recorded, but I can tell you something. I'm gonna start then with a group called El Paso. We were with a generation band, and those guys just didn't want to continue playing basic salsa music and corridos and stuff like that. And we were at the time, I was reminiscing a while ago. If I could make you a cocktail of the music that we were doing, let's start putting the cocktail together. We had brass groups that were unbelievable at that time. We had Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Tower of Power, Cold Blood. We had the Commodores, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Chicago.
So that's a one player. And then you brought in the Malo. You brought in. Then at the same time, we were influenced by the Tex-Mex music. Little Joe and the Latineers.
Sunliners.
The Sonny and the Songliners. I mean, so and then we have a base of Mexican music, which was a mariachi music. Absolutely. So when you start putting all this together, your other podcast guests don't have that feel and that basic root of feel that all of us had. So we wanted to start a group. We quit the generation band and we put the group together. I think I sent you a picture of the original group. It was Stanley on the drums, Stanley Arevalo. It was Pochi Sandoval on he had playing organ and saxophone. And then we had Manny de la Cerda, a great vocalist, and saxophone. Right, saxophone player. And then Ruli Aguirre continues to be my best friend. He's in Seattle. And by the way, we're going to talk about a lot of musicians, but people who have written music, I mean real music, as far as the combination of soul and Mexican music and Stevie Wonder and all that. Ruli Aguirre has almost 500 original songs. And I know, because I've been trying to promote him to get those songs out there. So Ruli was really one of the key guys in our group. Let me finish with the group. So we're missing Bobby Guerra, who's a trumpet player. Bobby, with Raul, revived the group again. and continued with it. And then who else am I missing? Am I
Well,
missing
you
somebody?
there's
Was that?
Robert Rubio.
And Robert Rubio, the bass player. So that was a core group. That was a core group.
and then you had some other guys in there that were all friends of mine that I played with off and on, and that would be drummer
Yeah.
Don Meal, and you had Mark Finneran in
Yeah.
there, and you had well, you already mentioned Ruley, you had Ron Stone, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So getting that's kind of like the second discussion that I wanted to have with you. But backing up on the original group, we were so great, Rick. We were so great, and I'm seriously great, meaning we were young guys, and we were putting that music together to a point where we were a show group, and we succeeded in a club called the KK Club. Okay, well, what's the KK Club? Well, the KK Club at that time was the in club for all the people who were trying to hear good music and stuff like that. Uh, we would charge at the door. We'd charge 10, 15 bucks at the door before you go in. There were lines around the building to get in the door. Okay. So we did that for about 6 months. And then had a friend that had a contact in Beverly Hills, the Howard King Agency. And the guy said, let's go talk to him. And we talked to him. I flew, all my family's in Los Angeles. I flew one time and my uncle took me to see Howard. And I told him about the group. I took a little tape. And I guess the guy liked me or whatever. He flew to El Paso. He flew to El Paso one night, one Saturday. I vividly recall him coming in. He didn't even tell us he was coming in. He came in and we just knocked his socks out. You know, the capacity, and there were still lines. So the way it would happen would be that there was a capacity limit, and then as people would leave, people would come in, and all the way till 12 o'clock would come in. So we played. He contracted us. He immediately contracted us, and that's where the group really, if there's a success story behind the group, it's that we were signed to do dining room clubs, nightclubs from San Francisco all the way to Hyannisport, Massachusetts. And we bought three vans. I should send you the picture of the vans. And we just had a good time. And we were earning all great money, played from Wednesday to Saturday, traveled on Saturday, Sunday and Monday and back. So we were just really, really very, very successful doing that. And the way that would go, we would look at the town. If it's Los Angeles, we'd play a lot of Tower Power or Malo and all that. If it was Massachusetts, which they didn't even know the Hispanic group, we would actually get down from the stage and do mariachi music, and the people would be dining, and it would be great. So that was kind of like the great story. And then as people started leaving, I was fortunate enough to find Donnie Mel, Ron Stone, Finneran, and the other organ player, which I don't remember his name.
Mark Ross.
Mike Ross. We just had a fantastic time, and those guys brought a lot of value and a lot of my favorite is Ron Stone. Ron, his guitar playing and his vocals were just unbelievable.
For those of you out there that don't know Ron Stone, his brother Rick Stone was the road manager for the Bobby Fuller Four. And Ron Stone, he was a dear friend of mine. He and I played together right before I formed the Basic Sound, which was the group I had that I played with 6 nights a week all the way through college from 69 to 72. Well, let's jump over to Raul a little bit now, and we've been talking a lot about the early part of a group called El Paso. Let's talk about when you got involved, Raul, and how this impacted your life.
You mean the Paso Band, or
Yeah,
a little bit before that? Going back to not so much out of high school, there was 3 groups from the 60s, the Shirelles, the Coasters, and the Drifters. They came in from Florida. They were coming through town. They're looking for musicians, and I said, let's go. That's when I took off with them. I was with them for about a year. We were based in Compton. We lived in Compton for that year. And then coming back after playing with some of the local bands, like you mentioned, Bobby Rosales, I guess like the El Paso band, we decided to form our own thing. People coming in from different bands, and we formed the Interstate 9 group. A little bit after that, El Paso band had just come in from Oregon, if I remember correctly. They played UTEP that morning. And then a little bit after that, that's when we practically merged the group, I would say, if I remember correctly, Fernie. And then in January of 73, took that picture where we're all in tuxedos outside the Keke Club, and it was a new group called El Paso. And during that year, that's when we started playing at the Azteca Lounge over there at the exit, at the Horizon City exit. That building is still there, by the way.
Hey, Raul, let me interrupt you for a second, Raul, because that was the best group that El Paso group has ever had, from my standpoint. Those guys, you know, Gus on the bass, Jay and the guitar, the brass group. I tell you what, we were playing music that it was even better. I remember Emilio Castillo from Tower of Power saw us one day, and he said, "You guys are played that song better than we do." But just to interrupt you quickly, Raul, that was, to me, Raul, the best group that best sounding group that I've ever been in.
We were playing a lot of different things, Rick. There was 4 horns, if you can imagine, 4 horns, and then that percussion, and then the vocals, and that's what sets us apart a little bit of most of the bands. Not to dismiss what they have, you know, the vocals, the guitars, the bass, and things like that. But when you have a band that can cover a lot more ground, because you have the horns, you have the vocals, you have the percussion, you can cover a lot more things. And we're covering a lot of things like Fernie says, Chicago, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Cold Blood, Malo, Azteca, which was another Latin rock. Latin rock is actually born in San Francisco, and that's a whole different bag of music right there. But during that 1973, that's where the band was really kicking butt, like Fernie says, with the new group called El Paso. And I think Fernie, if I remember, Fernie left during that year, and then Bobby Guerra came back in and took over the reins of the El Paso. And then we started going out of town later that year in 73, going up to New Mexico. And that's when we met the Quintiquis, when they were in Alamogordo, and they were another show band that had been in Vegas for about 5 years. They eventually heard us. I think they heard us live, or they saw us live, and they recommended us to an agent in Las Vegas, who I can't remember the name of the agent in Vegas. And even without listening to us, without hearing us, without seeing us, he decided to work with us. And one of the first places that he sent us was to Hawaii. We went out there for 1 week, and just for a trial basis, for 3 weeks, I'm sorry. We went to the Big Island in Hilo, and it was such a spectacular feeling driving to LA, having tickets there for the airplane, and then flying to Hawaii. That was my first plane ride anywhere. Look to the right, look to the left, and all I could see was water. I said, "Oh my God." So we got to the Big Island, 3 weeks, and that's when we realized that when we're talking about the Society of Seven, Rick, is the name of the band from Hawaii you were talking about last night, the Society of Seven. And we realized that there was a lot of show groups going on, so we started thinking about putting our own show with the El Paso band. But we were supposed to come back to El Paso after 3 weeks. But what happened is that Ferdinand Marcos in Philippines, he had martial law in 72. And there was a band that was supposed to come out of Manila. They were called the Manila Machine. They were supposed to go to the island of Kauai. And he says, if they can't get out, I'm going to send you guys over there for 1 week. So we were with our fingers crossed like this, that they wouldn't get out. I'm sorry, but we hope they don't get out. And they weren't able to get out. So he sent us to Kauai for 1 week to see how we would do. And when we got to Kauai, I happened to have a Tower of Power t-shirt. And the doorman, Joe, who was a big Samoan guy, he says, when I saw your t-shirt, I said, these guys are going to be very good. Sure enough, they kept us for 2 months there in Kauai.
Oh,
Wow.
Very well. They gave us allowed to use a house that used to belong to a local judge, a couple of cars to be around the island. After 2 months, he sent us to the island of Maui, to the Maui Beach Hotel, also for a 1 week trial basis to see how we would do. We went there, and they also kept us a month. And then Kauai called us back for another 2 months, this time to alternate with a group from Korea called the Happy Dolls. So 3 weeks turned into 6 months. And then we came back and then opened up for El Chicano in Alamogordo on a Sunday night. And then the next night we started. By that time, we already had like a mini show, along with the Mexican aspect of it, with Mexican hats and Mexican hat dance that Luis and Beto, the guys from Guadalajara and Tijuana, used to do the Mexican hat dance. The people in Hawaii, they ate all this stuff.
Absolutely.
They love the Mexican culture. So the club owners in Alamogordo, they said, I don't know about you guys. One night you come in and blow Chicano off the stage, and then the next night you come in and do a Las Vegas type show. Great. We were there in Alamogordo a month, and then they sent us to Canada. We went over in Niagara Falls, went to St. Catharines, and then we played at the Hilton at the airport in Toronto, which was a great super club. That's where I first met my first mafia guy in Toronto. And then we went up to, wound up going all the way to Halifax, Nova Scotia, and then eventually came back, played a gig in St. Louis, 2 weeks, and then that's when Jay flew back to Hawaii. He fell in love, and then he flew back to Hawaii. Now, Paso Band was going to split up, and that's when Weasel and that Quintiqui aspect of the group came in, because Weasel sent word to us in St. Louis, don't break up, I'm going to join you guys. And Weasel is one of the most excellent musicians that I have ever met. This guy could play John Denver and then go all the way to Earth, Wind, and Fire, and go to James Taylor and do Ohio Players, and then do just the beginning of Cut the Cake. I remember him just lumbering around the stage starting with a guitar plot of Cut the Cake, and he was just such an awesome musician.
Well, Carrie and Kevin were both very good in that group also.
Yeah. And then Phil, we brought in Phil. Phil was stuck up in Toronto, so we flew him in, and he joined us in Juarez. That's when Don Kanji with Image International, when we found out that we were in town, he says, you got a 5-month contract in Juarez at the Madrigal. I said, okay, give us a chance to put the group together. And then Phil eventually joined us. And that was another, after the 1973 group, I think this was another version of El Paso that was excellent. There was 7 of us, and all 7 of us could play different instruments, more than one instrument.
And that was in 1975, right?
1975, we were in Madrigal for 5 months. And that's when on a weekend, the Tower of Power opened up on a Friday for Cheech and Chong in Las Cruces. And we had a party with them the next Saturday afternoon. And that evening, well, as a matter of fact, during the party, one of our friends asked me to drive their manager, Kim Song, who used to be working for the Mafia in Hawaii. He was a road manager for Tower. And he asked me to take him and Lenny Pickett, who is now the director, has been the director of the Saturday Night Live band for several years now.
Yep.
I took him back to the hotel at the Holiday Inn, and I took back CT with me, Chester Thompson, the keyboard player, and the manager, Kim Song, back to the house. And then that night, half of the band went to Madrigal, and then they got up and they jammed with us. And I still have those pictures of that night. And I said, okay. And we had such a ball that night playing all their songs with these guys up on stage next to us and stuff. It was a memory that I'll never forget,
That's
and
great.
Mimi Castillo has been very, very, very good friend of the band. As a matter of fact, when they came back, and I think it was in the 90s, and I saw him at the Isleta Festival. I called him. I says, hey, this is Raul from the El Paso Band. He said, yeah, I remember you. We talked. Saw him that night, and he tells Rocco, the bass player, who rest in peace, he says, remember Raul from the El Paso Band? So the El Paso Band always came up. And like I was telling you last night, one of the last times they came to El Paso, they came to the Abraham Chavez Theater. And we played backstage with them before they went on stage. And then they did the show. And then when they were brought back from the encore, and I'll never forget this, he said, we used to come to El Paso a lot, he tells the audience. And we used to keep a friendship with a bunch of guys here from El Paso, and we'd like to send this song out to the El Paso Band. You're still a young man.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, that was a shout out that I'll never forget, him doing that for us, So,
yeah, great stories, man. You need to share some of those pictures with me, Raul. I didn't know you had taken some pictures, so
yes.
I've got a library. Share them with me. So that's fantastic. That's a great story, Rick.
He was sharing that with me last night, and I was telling him, ironically, about Tower of Power, is that I was talking to Lee Thornburg's wife yesterday morning when And I just thought the irony of that. You know, Lee Thornburg has become a friend of mine in the last, I guess it's been about 6 or 7 years now. And he just moved from Burbank to Florida. And so we're staying in touch. We're going to be doing a show together down the road. And but his wife is an incredible singer, and we've been talking about her life and everything too. But it all relates back to what you're talking about now with Tower of Power and great musicians and great
Absolutely.
stories, great history.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know, back a little bit before then, around after the El Paso band, we came back and we broke up for a while. But I've been fortunate enough to, and I have the pictures that in another other groups I've opened up for Tito Puente, who I have a picture with him, Celia Cruz. I've become friends with David Romero, who was a percussion player for Earth, Wind and Fire. Pete Escobedo. I rented out my percussion to Selena about 6 months before she was shot. It goes on and on. I have a picture with Carmine Apiece from Rod Stewart somewhere in Disneyland where we met up. But the El Paso band has also opened up. There was a rock and roll band that came in through one time, and it was a keyboard player from Sugarloaf. It was a drummer singer from Rare Earth.
Wow.
And I can't remember what they were called, but they did their own songs, of course. But El Paso band opened up for them. El Paso band has opened up for Felix Cavalier and the Rascals. We've opened up for War. We've opened up for Malo.
Yep.
I can't remember who else we've opened up with, but Sonny, we've accompanied Sonny Osuna in some of his
Yeah.
performances. So we've been around. I can say that we've been around.
And you know, you not only have you been around, but you're still doing it, Raul. I mean, what keeps your fire lit? I know you are a passionate musician, and I'm going to play some video in a little bit of you in action. You know, playing at 2015 Border Legends show that I used to put together, and I've got some video you've never seen before, but you're going to like it. It's pretty cool. But what keeps your fire lit? Why do you keep doing this?
You know, I don't know. When I used to get home from grade school, I used to use my sister's little record player and put on James Brown, and I used to use pencils and just drum away. And I don't know why I didn't become a drummer. I actually played the saxophone for a year when I was going to Zavala, but that thing was so heavy, even carrying it two blocks. I said, I don't want to carry this thing. And then
Smart move.
I eventually saw Philly Munoz, a trumpet player across the border in Juarez, on his program that used to come across. And I told my father, that's what I want to play. He says, you're crazy. You wanted to play saxophone last year and now you want to play a trumpet. I said, this one for sure, for sure. So I was lucky enough that my parents, were fortunate to go with what I was wanting to do. But when Santana first came out, and then Malo came out, I don't know, the percussion was the one that caught me. And I study and I follow all these musicians where they've been, and I know I can tell the history about Willie Bobo to Peter Escobedo to Santana to Chapito to all these percussion players. And percussion and horn players, my idols were Maynard Ferguson, who I think we first heard about him when we were in the 8th grade.
Yes.
But me, Maynard Ferguson, and Mick Gillette, they're all about power. The higher they go on their instrument, the louder they get, versus another famous trumpet player who the higher he goes, the punier he sounds. But it's just the music, and I can listen to the music, even a song like Nena from Malo. I can hear it still now, and I can still hear things that I haven't heard before.
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
because when I was on the road, I was a trumpet player, but I started teaching myself percussion just by listening and duplicating the sounds. And it's weird because I was telling you the Bob Miner had us open up for Malo in '72 in the Coliseum. Before I had my first player at timbales, I said, I'm going to leave him at home because I don't know anything about this. But I started teaching myself percussion eventually and duplicating the sounds. And I wasn't very far off from how to play them now. So everything that I know percussion wise is because I taught myself, because I didn't have anyone here in town. There were no percussion players except Carlos, but Carlos had left town. But back then there was no percussion players around town at all. So it just grabs me. And my passion really is like Latin jazz, because it has both. It has a percussion and it has the horns. And I can listen to that type of music with percussion day in and day out. It doesn't stop. It hasn't really. A lot of people say, some musicians have lost the art. In Spanish, they call it han perdido el amor al arte. And it hasn't gone away from me, really, because it's just in your heart. It's in my heart.
You know, Fernie, last night when I was talking with Raul, we were talking about the family and all the musicians that are involved in the family and everything. And of course, I told Raul last night, I said, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because his son is a great drummer also. You know, you could tell that Dad had a major influence on his playing and everything, because those two guys playing together, which you'll see in the video that I'll share here in a little bit, they were a killer force. Man, they were together. You guys, did you make your wife mad? Were you guys practicing all the time at your house, Raul?
We were always in the garage, just woodshedding, and then finally he got me one of those Y type of headsets and stuff, so we could do it together. But he came in, you know, like I was telling you about, with the Mars Volta and wanting to do different things. And he says, I don't like structure in music. That's when I told him all music has structure. And that's when I started, you know, bringing him down to, first of all, James Brown. I said, this is the funk, this is the one, and just listen to this. You got to learn to lay it down. You got to bring it all together. And the most important thing is to listen to the groove in every song. Every song has a groove. it's what's the name of that song? It's a slow song, but as I told him, every song has a groove. You got to find the groove in every song, and that's has stuck with him.
You know, Fernie, I was, you know, with Raul talking about James Brown, I was listening to one of the Prelude songs last night, and I may put a little piece of it up. In fact, I might just put it in this place right here. But it was one that sounds where Gabe Lopez was singing the song, and it sounded like right at the beginning, it sounded just like James Brown. And the horn section, is just pumping it out, just like, you know, with James's band. But as you'll hear, and I mean, these guys, this was on the DeMarco label out in L.A. when Gabe left El Paso and went out there. I got to ask you, Fernie, when he left, did he take the Preludes with him, or did he form a new band out there?
No, we you know, I went with him, but he formed a totally different group. And one of the things I still remember is that when I was leaving, you know, he asked me for some advice, and I told him that he needed to just really get some really good musicians. And he had a couple of trumpet players. Really, I don't know if you knew the guy. That guy was just unbelievable. But no, I didn't. And I mean, I kind of see the Preludes a little bit different. You know, it was just a core group that there were entertainers also, but I think it's totally different, obviously, than the El Paso type of music flavor. And you know, that guy that just talked right now, my brother Raul, I'm very proud of him. You know, I'm so sad that I don't even know his son. So I'm excited to hear and see what you've got. But well, there's got to be a foundation, like Raul said a while ago, to the music. And if you don't have that foundation, it's very difficult to build upon that, you know. And that's something that Raul's always had, and I'm very proud of Raul, very proud. And by the way, he's not just playing music. This guy's got a master's and has done excellent in his life in the professional environment. I'm extremely proud of him.
Yeah, he's
go ahead.
People that don't know, he's a medical social worker, and that's a frontline job. And I told him this last night. I thanked him for doing this, because when you're out there working with people that are dealing with COVID and what all he has seen and everything, you know, my heart bleeds for you, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, back then, just a little thing is that I work with I used to be the suicide prevention supervisor, crisis line supervisor. I work with sexual assault victims, women and children and men. I work with the elderly. I work at our 3 hospital networks, UMC, when it was Thomason. I was the director of social service there.
Great.
I work at Sierra Medical Center, including the kidney transplant. I work with BMBV, a very good program. And now I've been, it's going to be 3 years that I've been here at Del Sol Medical Center. I was there in May of 19. 3 months later, we had the Walmart massacre. I worked 12 straight days from there. And it was just something that it's just came from the road, when we're being on the road and talking and meeting with so many people across the country, so many people that used to talk and listen to their stories. And I don't know, I just came back and I got into the profession. I got a couple of degrees from UTEP, one in psychology, one in social work. My master's in social work is from UT Austin. And it's just a matter of, who can I help today?
Beautiful.
Try to be helpful, trying to be healthy, stay healthy. As we're talking about the COVID, because if I'm not healthy, I'm not in a position to help anybody else. And as long as I have my health, I'm going to help somebody.
You know, I've got a degree in psychology as well, but the only thing that I did with mine was studying the crazy people in the bars and showrooms when I was on the road. And that's where I left it, man. When I came back to El Paso, I didn't pursue anything else, with it. But anyway, let's. I like to, when I do these kind of interviews, I like to, especially with people that are involved in doing shows. And when you guys first started out and were playing the clubs and everything, obviously you were playing cover music, you were playing dance music. That's what people wanted in the bars and everything. I know when I first went out to LA with my groups, it was a fight because you wanted to showcase your act, but they wanted to hear dance music and you wanted to play medleys and do shows and things. So either one of you can jump on this question, but I would like to hear what you have to say about transitioning from being a dance band to becoming a full-blown show band. I mean, I know what it's all about because I've done it. Howard King booked my band also when we got out to LA. So, you were in Tall Cotton, Fernie, with Howard King. He is definitely one of the best. He had us in all over LA and played just majorly incredible, great showrooms. The Sahara, Lake Tahoe, where I played, it was just an incredible thing, to be on the same billboard with Elvis and Jackson 5 and Isaac Hayes, Fifth Dimension, Diana Ross, all that. It's incredible. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about how difficult was it to transition from being a dance band to becoming a full-fledged show band.
I mean, I can jump in as far as the Group Called El Paso when we first started with Howard King. And basically, it was not that difficult because we were playing dinner clubs, period. There were high-end dinner clubs. So you would go in there, you would be on the stage, people will actually be eating. And after they ate, then they would like a little bit of entertainment. We did Tony Bennett, we did a whole bunch of slow kind of music. We serenaded them on the floor. I'm glad to hear Raul with that mariachi thing that they continued that because that's entertainment. That's what they like. And then once they let loose, then we would play top 40 stuff. And we did that for a while. But comparing that to coming back home and having a Raul Montes and the brass group and they want to come in and dance and Raul has more experience than I do, obviously. But what I remember is that a lot of the people really didn't want to dance. They wanted to go hear the group. But that's what I remember. And that's what really touched me because they didn't come in, okay, play, whatever, oye, como va, so I can dance. That was done in the weddings and stuff like that. They would come in and it would be a group that they would appreciate music. And when they appreciate music, you're at your best. You're able to kind of hone in and get the group to sound a certain way because you can get crazy with 8 guys with 5 horn players and all that. It can really get crazy because the acoustics were not that great in some of the places we played. So that's my take, Raul. Maybe I don't know what your experience was.
We talked about the Laughing Kahunas. The Laughing Kahunas we met here in El Paso. They never saw or heard the El Paso band until we got to Hawaii. And they used to, like, I won't say brush us off, but they hadn't heard us. They hadn't seen us. So they thought we were like, whatever. They were a fantastic show band. They got showdown, they had the showdown, really, about Las Vegas. When they saw us and they heard us in Hawaii, though, they said, oh my God, because the musicianship was a lot better than their showmanship, okay? So we eventually got into the showmanship. They used to invite us to lunch after that, after they heard us and stuff, The last show that El Paso band or the El Paso band or the El Paso Quintiquis put together was in Albuquerque. We finished that show working that whole month in Albuquerque. And when we came back to El Paso, it was a combination of Larry Graham, and I forget the name of the song that we started the show with. But then we showcased the theme from Beretta, the theme from SWAT, and then we had a segment in there. We went into Chico and the Man, and everybody was switching instruments during this segment, right?
Yep.
And then we went from Chico and the Man to the Jeffersons, and then Gus doing the heart attack thing with Sanford and Son. And then we eventually went into Happy Days, and then from Happy Days we would go into a rock and roll thing where I would even put on a dress and a wig, come out as in Chantilly lace, and then we went into Shaft, and Gus would do the robot, and it was a fantastic show. That's a come. And when we were at the Mason in December of '76, there was also a line going in to see us 6 nights a week,
Yep.
and that was a fantastic show because we used to do two sets of dance music, and then put the microphones on the floor, and then go and change into our other uniforms, and then come back and hit them with the
Yep.
show. It was a fantastic band back then, during that time, 76, 77.
It's a lot of work, isn't it, man, to convert from being just a dance band?
And it is because you working it little by little, and you said, how long is that? It's only 15 minutes. Oh
I know.
God, we got about like 45 more minutes to think of stuff, you know. But it was good. Once you do it, it was good. It was down to a T. You know?
When Howard saw my middle group, he booked 3 different groups, but mainly my middle group was the one that he booked all over California. And then we had a Chicago agent that basically booked the rest of our tour all over the U.S. for 4 years. But it was funny because we had just been offered one of Howard's agents that worked there, Doris Vance, that was working with him. She came and saw our act, and we were only 2 weeks rehearsed. And she said, you guys are ready, you know. So next thing I know, we're going to the Sahara in Lake Tahoe because they had a band that there was a medical problem and they had to cancel. So they were going to have us in for 1 week. So we went there, and we had enough to do maybe 1.5 or 2 shows. I got to tell you, we never learned stuff so we couldn't learn it fast enough. On our breaks in our dressing room in between shows, we would go in there and work up stuff with the acoustic guitar and work out the vocal parts and do a John Denver medley or do, you know, whatever, you know. When you were saying something about Sanford and Sons and all that, it brought back memories, Raul, because I was thinking about one of our theme songs that we opened a show with was maybe the song from Laverne and Shirley on TV. That was one of our opening songs because it was good. It was a great vocal, and we were a vocal show, vocal show band. So, but yeah, we did a lot of stuff like that too. But we did a lot of medleys. We did like Carpenter's medleys. We did a Broadway show medley. We did. Oh my gosh, we did Al Jolson medley. We did a 50s medley. Actually, we did a medley that would involve everything from the Andrews Mills Brothers, and then Andrews Sisters, and then we would go into Beach Boys, Four Freshmen, you know, and then end with the Beatles, you know. But
you had the vocals. I have heard your vocals; they were fantastic vocals.
Thank you, man. You know, I love vocals. That's always been my thing. I never played with a brass band. I mean, in my first band in El Paso called The Basic Sound, we had Charro, you know, and we talked about him last night, Joe Alvarez. Did you ever work with him, Fernie? I know we talked to Raul about it.
No,
yeah.
No.
He was a great trumpet player. You know, he could play everything from Herb Alpert to, I mean, stuff from Vicente. I mean, he did it all, man. He could do mariachis, he could do cumbias. We did it all, you know, over there at the Knights Club. But good days, man. Great memories. You know, I loved it.
Going to what Fernie was saying back in when El Paso Band started, when we merged in '73, back to when Bobby Guerra and Phil Rivers and myself, we was a horn section without a rhythm section. We put it back together in '91, and we started doing some Mexican music and some country. But then we couldn't get by the time we played a wedding, we had forgotten all that Mexican music and all the country. And we said, you know, why don't we go back to the premise of the El Paso Band? The reason that it was put together is to play what we wanted, what we liked. If everybody happened to like it, that's even better. And we stuck with that. And that's how come not even to this day, people know the El Paso Band. They know what we play. And they said, and if we played all the country clubs here in El Paso, people say, you know what? I know people are gonna want cumbias, they're gonna want corridos, but I want you guys to play what you guys played in the clubs, and I don't care about anybody else. I'll hire a disco for that stuff, and that's been the success. So why mess with the formula, And it
Yeah,
makes
and I
it
think, I think that's kind of the key role to me too. There's a satisfaction that you have to have as a musician, as a group, when you go out there. If you go out there and you start hearing people yelling that they want this song or that song, it puts in a different type of atmosphere. We kind of were a little bit, we thought we were a little bit privileged, I guess was the word, meaning that we knew we had a great group, and we knew that we wanted to go in there and play the music that we had rehearsed, and we wanted it to come out perfection. We had no really. So when you asked me a while ago about the audience, the audience was really great. I mean, they just went. They paid the money to go. So look at this, okay? So right now, Rick, let's say that tonight there's going to be X, Y, and Z band playing at X, Y place, and they're going to charge $15 at the door, okay? And you're going to go in there. Why are you going to go in there? Are you going to go in there? Are you going to pay the $15 because you want them to play your song, or what makes you go to that place? So to us, the people would pay money to go see us, but they would want to hear us. They want to see what's different. What are you offering tonight? And I just have some really beautiful experiences. I'm not a great musician. I've never been, but I have a friend who rocks, which is Raul, and I'm just so happy that he has continued doing what he does. So I'm excited for you to have invited us, Rick. I really thank you for letting this old guy reminisce back to the old times. I keep some friends, and I still follow Tower of Power. I talked to Amy I think it was last Wednesday. He keeps me informed of what's going on, Emilio. I admire them for what they're doing.
Yeah.
Keeping that show on the road for the long time, and it's a beautiful feeling, and I'm so happy that part of my life has been playing music and appreciating music, and that no one can take that away from you.
And what Fernie was saying, that even though we didn't record anything, I think the last year when we were on the road in '76, we wanted to see. We weren't satisfied at that point to be like other bands here locally that say we have a wedding every weekend, and that was satisfactory. We wanted to see how far we could take this thing. We picked up a black drummer, Ron Wilson, in Dayton, Ohio, who happened to be very good friends with the Ohio Players. He took him a cassette that we recorded up in Nebraska, and they had agreed to produce our first album. Unfortunately, something happened in Los Angeles that contract-wise and time-wise, it went very wrong. Our contract was canceled, and as I was telling you, Rick, last night, our contract was canceled. That showcase we were supposed to be there and showcase all the club owners in LA. Well, and like I told you last night, the Manhattan Transfer took our place. And then after that, the Supremes went in there. Lou Rawls went in there. And then Gino Vanelli went in there in the same club that we were at. That's at the level that the band was at that time. And that's why the agency, Blue Ribbon Talent out of Milwaukee, they moved the agency to LA because they moved it just because of us. They were going to back us up in LA. But that's at the level that the band was at. For the Manhattan Transfer, the Supremes, and even Lou Rawls to go in after us, that just says something about the band.
Well, they thank you. They thank you for that, Raul.
Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but that's fine. It's been good, though. It's been good. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, guys, this is getting close to the end. I just, I ditto what you said, Fernie. I so much appreciate you guys in the contribution that you both have made to El Paso's music history. It's not a lot of people can say that, about the bands of El Paso. A lot of them come and go. A lot of them made a major impact on our music history patrimony here in El Paso. And and I'm glad to say that my two brothers here before me,
Thank you.
my music brothers, are still at the top of some of my favorites. You know, you guys have done it. You've played with a lot of great people. You have a lot of great stories, and I foresee down the not too far future maybe doing a second episode, and if I can get those songs from the guy I was telling you about earlier. I don't want to go on the show here to mention his name, but there's somebody that's trying to get you some of your music digitized, and if we can get that done, then we'll definitely do another episode and play some of the early years of the group called El Paso, and we'll just kind of take it one step at a time. But I think that would be a great way to do a second episode.
Hey, Greg, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. I really am kind of embarrassed that I've never, heard your podcast or know very much about you. But last week or so, since we first met, I tell you what, I've looked at all your music, and boy, I tell you, the vocals are really pretty darn impressive. I really am pretty impressed. And thank you for letting me see my brother. I have very few people who are as close to me as Raul Montes.
Same here.
Well, he's a good one. You know, both you guys are great. I appreciate your friendship and coming on here today and doing this show with me. And we'll keep doing what we love most, man. And that's our passion for music and talking about it or playing it or whatever it is. But it's our universal language. And love is the key. I hear a song coming on.
Hey, listen, God bless you, okay? And take care of yourself, okay? God
Thank
bless
you, man. God bless you guys. We'll see you later, Raul.
Really?
Stay safe.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye now.